Joe Britton and myself, Bud Winsor, are going to do a virtual tour for Founders Day. And for our students that are not on campus, we just want to reassure you that everything is still here, and we want to tell you that we miss you and we miss the activity that the springtime brings, and we hope to see you again in the fall. So our tour usually starts right here at Oya Hill. Henry Oya was a gardener here at Keene State, and when you read the inscription, it says for 18 years he was the groundsman and landscaper of Keene State College. The flowers, shrubs, and trees were his children. The beauty of the campus is his gift to you, and that's been my inspiration for the last 27 years here at Keene State. I thought this was a wonderful memorial to the campus gardener. And the young gardener that was working with Henry at the time was a fellow named Chris Spiker, who was on our crew for a while. And when Chris left the crew, he was replaced by Joe Britton. So we've only had 3 gardeners in the last 40 years. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good record. But Henry originally planted these 5 spruce trees with Chris Spiker's help. And when he was on his deathbed, he asked the president of the college, Leo Redfern, if this memorial could be dedicated to him. So I've already told people the tree I want. But anyway, as it turns out, we've replaced these blue spruce. If you look at them, they're really bright blue. They're a hoopsie blue spruce. And they've grown quite a bit since we put them in 3 or 4 years ago, maybe more. This is the Donald Wyman crabapple, and I do like crab apples, and for a couple of reasons. One is that they're food for wildlife. This tree is usually stripped pretty bare from the birds, but I guess they missed a couple of the crab apples this year. But they will get them. And Donald Wyman was he was sort of the curator of Arnold Arboretum, and he would hybridize crabapple trees and try to make either different size crab apples or different flowering colors. This tree is going to be magnificent in probably the next week when it starts to flower. It's one of the prettiest trees on campus. This tree is a variegated sweet gum tree. I wish it wasn't leaf because the trees are the leaves are like a creamy white and green, very, very pretty. And I wanted to tell you the story about the day Michelle Obama came to campus, probably in the first election of Barack Obama. Right in front of the Student Center, she first noticed this tree and asked what kind of tree it was, and she said, "Oh my God, this is so beautiful." And I always wondered whether or not she had one planted at the White House. I hope she did, but she made it a point to tell us how much she appreciated how beautiful the campus was, which was really nice. The Saucer Magnolia, and it's a little bit past bloom, but the last couple of days it was just beautiful. Right in front of the Student Center. And magnolias sometimes are marginal in New Hampshire, but really and truly, if we find the right spot, they do pretty well.
Along Appian Way are called chads. They're service berry. Bud and I tend to disagree. Like here, canadensis or
The Savas.
So we'll dispute about that later. These trees are actually planted to flower around the time of graduation. They're typically only in bloom for about a week. They're a very nice showing, and even though we've just come out of winter, the white flowers are beautiful, and it's just like one of the first signs of life on campus. So these are ones to keep your eye out for. They don't last long, but when they're here, they're gorgeous.
We took note of the tree we dedicated to Melinda Treadwell last summer, and we wanted to reassure not just Melinda, but the whole campus that this tree is doing well, and we want you to take note of it when it starts to leaf out. It'll have a variegated leaf, kind of a maroon and I believe a cream-colored leaf. Very, beautiful tree, and Joe and I were just talking about how this will be a pretty huge, sizable tree. The only one of its type, very unique, just like our president.
These are called Raptor pears, calorie pear. Beautiful early bloomer, but there's a very funny story about these. It's gone in senior student folklore that they smell kind of pungent around graduation, and the urban legend is that a senior class donated these so that for future graduations it would kind of stink a little bit. That's not true. It was a landscape architect that planted these.
So it's his fault.
It's his fault. Again, a gorgeous tree. These are planted along Appy Way because they're salt tolerant. They're what you call a street tree. They're very tolerant to having a lot of concrete hardscape around them. Not a lot of soil accessible to them. I love them. I think they're beautiful. The garden beds in front of the library, they're a very important one to me. I am the campus gardener, but I think these ones are so cool because I call them a 3-season garden. In the springtime, they're all planted with daffodils and flower bulbs in hopes that there's going to be a graduation. I'm really sad that everyone's missing out on them this year. In summertime, they move on to the large leafy greens, and a lot of the kids, they call them the Jurassic Park plants that I plant, the colocasia, the elephant ears, and it really is a showpiece garden. It's right on Appian Way, overlooking everything. And then in the fall, we change over to fall chrysanthemums, and it's just really an important garden bed to me. And I know I get a lot of comments about how people kind of identify this garden bed with Keene State and Appian Way.
This is the dawn redwood. It is related to the big redwood trees in California. It's not a sequoia, it's a metasequoia, but it is in that same family. It's going to be huge. This is the tree that we really were sort of brazen when we declared that we had an arboretum in 1996. We had Doc Y out here, who was the president at the time, with one of those gold shovels, and we planted this, the dawn redwood. And so it was 1996, and you can see how much it's grown. And this poor tree has been through some horrible snowstorms, and there were times when we thought we were going to lose it. But through some creative pruning, we've kept it going. If you look at it, it's got a beautiful bark. So the silhouette of this tree, even in the wintertime, is beautiful. The squirrels have a little highway that they go up and down, but it is a deciduous conifer. In other words, it's an evergreen, but it loses its needles. So it's kind of I don't know if you call it an oxymoron, but it's a very unusual circumstance for a tree. But when it has the needles, it looks almost like a sensitive plant. It has these little lime green needles that come out. It's a beautiful, beautiful tree. In another week, it'll really it'll look like it's fluorescent. So it's really a pretty tree. So take note of this next time you're on campus.
Is to have large established trees. A lot of younger colleges don't have this. And just to take a minute and sit here and look at how massive this tree is and the structure of the tree is just really, I don't know, it kind of puts you in place. It makes you feel like this is a very special spot to be. It does have a dedicated bench to a young student who lost his life a few years ago. And it's just really a gorgeous tree, a gorgeous spot, a gorgeous campus.
We're at the head of the quad, and right in front of Fisk, there are 9 lilacs. And the 9 lilacs signify 9 either faculty, staff, or students who lost their lives in World War II. There's some very familiar Keene names, Montrone, Sullivan. They're names you'd recognize if you're a Keene native. But we made sure that these were memorialized so that they would always be sacred. And so they have, each one has a plaque with the name of the person. And our greatest hope, Joe and I always hope that these are blooming for graduation. and they make a fabulous backdrop. But even more fabulous is the smell. I believe they're French lilacs. They smell so good, and they are the New Hampshire shrub, the lilac. So anyway, a lot of meaning here. Like I say, these are 9 people that gave their lives for World War II. Some actually, one I know of, lost his life at Pearl Harbor, and so it's quite a historical planting. When these had started to do fairly poorly a couple of years ago, we replanted to make sure that they would be here in perpetuity. The Japanese tree lilac, and trees of course have a lifespan just like we all do, and unfortunately this tree is starting to show some failure. You can see where it's cracked in the middle. Our arborist Jeff Garland at the time had put these literally crutches on this tree to keep it going as long as we possibly could, and so far it has worked, but we know that within a year or two, sadly, this tree has to come down. So, but it's the Japanese tree lilac. Unlike the regular lilac, it blooms in the month of June, just a little bit later. It's a creamy white flower, and the smell is so strong that they literally make perfume out of it. But before the Hale building had air conditioning, people would complain because they'd sneeze because of the strong smell of the Japanese tree lilac. But note this tree in June. If you're lucky enough to be in Keene and driving down Main Street in June, this tree is beautiful, fully covered with flowers.
On the front or the back of Rhodes Hall, depending on how you look at it. This is a very cool spot for, again, when graduation does happen. These trees here are American redbuds, Cercis canadensis. Same story, in about a week they'll be covered with these little tiny purple blooms, and just an absolutely gorgeous tree. And there's some tulips here that someone planted, but this place, when graduation happens, there is literally people that line up and wait to take their photos here. So any incoming freshmen, sophomores, juniors, when it's your turn to graduate, you've got to remember this spot.
This is Magnolia. Again, notice the QR codes. If you want to find out more information about the tree, just hold up your phone. Make sure you download the QR application on your phone and read that. And tell you more than you ever want to know about Magnolia. Magnolias bloom fairly early in the spring, and it's a good thing. It's a blessing and a curse, because sometimes the frost will get the tree and drop all these beautiful flowers to the ground. But we're lucky that these held on for as long as they did this year. The weeping larch will lose all its needles in the fall, but when it comes back... The most exciting thing of working with the trees is the way students seem to enjoy hanging out on campus, either underneath the shade tree or playing frisbee on an athletic field. Just like it said on Henry Oya's monument, the trees were his children. I think we're the stewards of this, and we're maintaining it. People before us did an incredibly good job, and now it's up to us to try to keep it going. And I feel that between Joe and I, that's our mission, is to make Keene State a beautiful place that people want to enjoy. We want to tell you why it's called the red maple. The leaves are not red, but the buds are red. We started giving tours to second graders from some of the schools in Swansea, and it was just a teacher had asked me to do it one day, and all of a sudden it took fire. And we've done it for college classes, we've done it for older adults, we've done it for the call program on Fridays. So it's become very popular. We've done it for staff members on Founders Day. The saucer magnolia. I think it brings people a sense of peace, and there are studies that show that when you have a beautiful place, there's less agitation on people's parts. it brings serenity and reflection, and I think it just changes people's attitudes about how their day is going.
Working with Bud Winsor has been a great experience. He's always a fun, positive person to be around. Very knowledgeable and very passionate about what he does, and that really helps everyone on the crew to really be inspired to do a better job.
I guess it taught me that things take time, patience. It takes years for a tree to really achieve its true beauty, and when you plant a tree, you really literally plant hope for the future, and that's I guess that's what I take away from it. I'm very proud of how it looks, and I can think back of how many things have changed in the last 27 years between the buildings and the plantings, and Keene State is just a special place, a beautiful place, and I'm glad that I got to be part of it, part of that transformation. And I've had tremendous support in this community. I can't think of a better place to have a career than here. It really has been, looking back, it's been wonderful.